Hello, I'm John Steele. I'm the original drummer with the Animals. Um, Shortly, we're going to be touring in Australia with the current band, which is a lovely little outfit. It's Danny Handley on lead vocal and lead guitar, brilliant on both. Roberto Ruiz on bass, born in the Bronx in New York City and now settled in England with an English lady, his wife.
Yeah.
And our new keyboard player since the lockdown is a guy called Barney Williams, who's really brought a nice, fresh bit of life into the band because he's like Alan Price, he's got a real two-handed player,
Okay.
can do anything, and so everything's very lively. I'm looking forward to our tour because it's been postponed about 3 times because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But at last it's final, and we're on our way on Sunday.
Beautiful. John, thanks for joining us tonight, my friend. So the Animals will be bringing your greatest hits tour to Australia starting on October 18th in Newcastle before winding through Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth and finishing at the Airlie Beach Music Festival on November the 5th, mate. So it's going to be good to see you back in Australia, mate. How long has it been?
Oh, yeah. It was 2019, just before the big lockdown happened, and we had been scheduled to be back in 2020, but that had been cancelled, and another one was postponed, and so on and so on. So here we are. It's been like 3 years, and it's been a big miss because we love playing in Australia. It's great country, great hospitality, great food, great wine. Everything's good. What's not to like? Sunshine too.
What's not to like, hey? What's not to like about the place? So tell me, what can we expect from the run of shows, mate? I know it's the greatest hits tour, but what can we expect from the band?
Oh well, obviously they're big hits, but we've got a good repertoire of B sides and album tracks that we can mine. Danny Handley, the lead singer and guitarist, he's an encyclopedia on 60s music, and particularly the Animals and the Beatles. He's a huge Beatles fan. But he keeps digging around, ferreting around, bringing up songs that I haven't played for 50 years and saying, Johnny, how about this one? So we'll give it a try, and if it works, we'll throw it in, So it keeps the sets fresh, so that we're not playing the same thing every night, the same way every night.
Yeah.
Which is good for us and good for the audience too.
Yeah. That sort of leads me into the next question, mate. Like, you've been playing some of these songs since the early 1960s, so how do you manage to still keep them fresh and interesting, particularly for yourself, I guess?
Oh, well, I think one of the things about the Animals is the songs that we recorded way back then. I've called it grown up stuff, grown up music, because they're not pop songs. They're kind of story songs generally. We got to get out of this place, and it's my life, and don't let me be misunderstood. Those kind of songs are the kind of slightly dark, edgy songs, and so they never get tired. They never get passe. It's always a pleasure to play them. I've never been embarrassed or regretful about anything we ever recorded back then, and I still find a lot of pleasure in playing them today because it's all good stuff.
And as you say, man, like you've been playing and performing for well over 50 years, mate. So do you find the way that you perform and present live shows has changed a hell of a lot since when you first started?
Not for me. we don't do a lot of we don't do any kind of overlays and double tracking or any of that kind of stuff. It's a live band. We go on stage with our instruments and we knock it out, and that's the way you get it. It's just good live in your face stuff. We enjoy doing it, and we enjoy playing it that way. And it seems to go down well. We always get a standing ovation, so we've got to be doing something right.
Yeah, that's right. So going back to the start, mate, like the Animals formed back in the early 60s. So what was the musical climate like back then that gave birth to the band, and where did you fit in initially?
We Well, Eric Burton and me met in the mid-50s when we were first-year students at the Newcastle College of Art. And that was where it all kicked off. And we found that we both had a love of rock and roll, blues, jazz, and movies, books. We had very similar tastes about all sorts of things. That's when we first formed a band. But then it gradually sort of developed from there till 1963, where after sort of several different experiments with things, we finally ended up with the lineup that became the Animals. Although at the time, because of changes and falling out and falling back in again, in 1963 the band was called the Alan Price Rhythm and Blues Combo,
right.
which is a very clunky name.
Bit of a mouthful.
But yeah, but by that time we were the sort of we were the house band at a brilliant club in Newcastle called the Club of Go-Go, and we played support to special guests, and we also backed people like John Lee Hooker and Sonny Boy Williamson, wow. Great blues guys. And one of the acts that came on was Graham Bond, the brilliant Hammond organ player and jazz saxophonist. He had a terrific quartet with Ginger Baker on drums, Jack Bruce on bass, Dick Hexel Smith on tenor sax, and we played the introduction spot, and Graham came on and they did their spot, and then we got to close the show late at night, and Graham said, "Can I come up and play with you?" I thought, "Wow, that's cool."
Wow.
And he did, and he said he spoke to our manager, the manager of the owner of the club, and he said, "That's a great band you've got. You should I can introduce you to people in London," because things were happening by then. The Beatles had already started to kick the doors down all over the world. And Graham introduced Mike to a couple of people, and he gave us a foothold into the London scene. So, and at the same time, he said, "You want to get rid of that name, man." And it was him. and it was him. It was him who came up with the name The Animals. Which was we thought. It sounded like outrageous to us at the time, and so we said that's a good idea. Alan didn't like it very much, but
and here we are today.
Exactly, yeah.
So you mentioned the Beatles, mate. Like, you guys were around about the same time as the Beatles were like hitting their peak. So was there ever any sort of friendly rivalry between the Animals and the Beatles, or did you always get on?
Oh, we always got on. Yeah, there was no rivalry. We were great admirers of what the Beatles were doing, and still am. I mean, they were just sort of in a different class to everybody else, really. But we were up there with them. We were at that point in the early '60s. We were reckoned to be in the sort of top 3 or 4. With the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Animals. We were up there with them, and they really liked our stuff as well, because there were several clubs in London, like the Scotch of St James and the Cromwellian and the Ad-Lib Club, where it was almost entirely bands in there every night when finishing a gig, going in there, having a drink and a bit of talk. So we all used to mingle a lot together. So we got to know what each other were doing, and they genuinely did admire what we did. We got a telegram from them.
Yeah.
When we got to number 1, saying congratulations, you guys, great number 1.
Oh, awesome!
The Beatles, a band.
That's fantastic. Oh shit! And then when the House of the Rising Sun came out, it pretty much catapulted the Animals into the limelight overnight, pretty much, man. So looking back, do you think you guys were actually ready to take that next step?
It was a bit of a surprise, but I mean, everything was a surprise at that time. It was only our second single, and we were, just a few short months from leaving Newcastle to try our luck in the big city, and within a very short time, we had a record deal. We had an agency, and the agent was Don Arden, who was bringing Chuck Berry over to the UK for his first ever visit to and he put us on the tour, a package tour, playing support, and it was fantastic. Like everything was first time for us. First time we were playing theatres, first time we had a single, we played on the radio and on television, and then the second single, was just bang, wallop, number one, and we got within 6 months of leaving Newcastle, 5 working class Geordie guys from a provincial industrial city. And 6 months later, we're flying across the Atlantic and, in like movie star style,
That's fantastic.
To kick off in the Paramount Theatre in Times Square, New York.
Wow, that must have been sensational times, mate.
It was.
And I also read that The House of the Rising Sun was recorded in one take by producer Mickey Most. Is that true?
Absolutely true. Yeah. I fortunately, my girlfriend at the time was back in Newcastle, and I wrote her loads of letters, and she kept them all, and we eventually married, and we were married for a lifetime, almost 55 years. Yes. And she kept all the letters, and one of the letters I sent was 2 days after we recorded House of Rising Sun, and I said, gave her a few things about what was happening on the, I said, we were in a studio, and we had to do a little thing for a program called Ready Steady Go, which was a big, a really hot youth program at the time. I said, and we also recorded House of Rising Sun, and we did it in one take. How about that? I've still got the letter.
That's fantastic. Shit hot. So then after The Rising Sun came hit after hit with We Got to Get Out of This Place, there's Boom Boom, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, I Put a Spell on You, and heaps more, mate. But did you actually have a writing formula back then that helped churn out all those hits, or was it different every time?
It was different. I mean, we never really managed to get a writing formula the way, partnership like Lennon and McCartney or Keith and Mick, the Rolling Stones. We never seemed to manage that somehow. Eric wrote a few things and co-wrote with Alan, but it was never... So most of the stuff we had success with was playing our version of songs by, professional songwriters like, Carl King and people like that. So we just seem to, people identify, we got to get out of this place, and it's my life, and don't let me be misunderstood. They say that's Animal songs, but in fact we didn't write them. We just seem to manage to make the definitive version of it that everybody remembers.
Right. Wow. Then over the years, man, like the Animals have seen many music trends come and go, but you guys have survived throughout all of them, mate. Like, what do you put your longevity down to? Again,
I put it down to the quality of the songs and the way we interpreted them and performed them. They still stand up so well. And generations of people come to see us. So people who weren't even born anywhere near when we made those songs, and they can sing along. They know all the lyrics. They can identify with them. And like, we got to get out of this place. It's become an anthem all over the world for people. Leaving a job, leaving school, leaving college, or whatever.
Leaving their wife.
Whatever. But yeah. So people can identify with that, and it's my life. I'll do what I want. Don't let me be misunderstood. It kind of, people say I can identify with that. That's the way things are at the moment with me.
Very good. All right, John. Well, thanks very much for your time tonight, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. The Animals' Greatest Hits Tour kicks off in Newcastle on October the 18th. So if you want to get yourself a bit of nostalgia and a bit of history, get along to the shows because they sound like they're going to be awesome.
Yeah, it will be. We're going to enjoy ourselves.
Beautiful, mate. You sound like you'd enjoy yourself no matter what, brother. It's good to hear. It's refreshing.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Nice talking to you.
You too, John. Take care, mate.